The conversation in Israel right now is incredibly heated, especially when we talk about national security, military actions, things like that, and the roles of its leaders, past and present. It's a landscape absolutely filled with strong.
It really is. And sometimes those opinions are coming from the most, surprising.
You're absolutely right. It feels like every single word right now is under a microscope.
Definitely. And the internal arguments, they seem to be mirroring the external pressures.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're taking you into a particularly fierce debate. It's highlighted in recent YouTube clips, news reports from the channel C14.
Right.
We've got a collection of pretty controversial statements made by former high-ranking Israeli officials, public figures, and they've truly stirred the pot.
Our mission today really is to peel back the layers of these significant statements. We want to explore the intense reactions they've sparked, across the political spectrum.
And understand the deeper implications.
Exactly. For Israeli society, its military, its standing in the world, we'll examine not just what was said, but why these specific comments have caused such an uproar.
Okay.
And what they reveal about the fault lines, the challenges Israel is navigating, both at home and abroad.
What we're about to uncover, I think, will really illuminate some of the deep divisions running through Israeli society. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
What's driving these critical voices? We learn from these materials that some in Israel have a striking name for this phenomenon, Karahat Halishavarim,
which translates to the fever of the formers.
The fever of the formers, okay. What exactly is this new disease they describe?
Well, what's fascinating here is how these reports characterize it. They call it a new disease, right?
Yeah.
Primarily affecting former senior officials, especially from the IDF. And the idea of a fever, it implies something irrational, maybe even, contagious, that causes these individuals to seemingly abandon their previous convictions.
So it's not just a change of heart, but almost an accusation of a pathological shift.
Precisely. The reports describe symptoms like adopting progressive opinions, showing a tendency for treachery.
Treachery, wow.
Yeah, and even flattery to the powerful arms of the deep state. Now, the deep state, that's a term often used.
That's right, we hear that a lot.
Yeah, suggesting unelected, entrenched elements. Here, these specific sources define it as the media, judiciary, and academia.
Okay, that paints a very specific and, frankly, quite cynical picture of their motive. Do the sources you looked at offer any alternative reasons why these former officials might be speaking out so critically? Or is this political gain idea the main one in the C14 reports?
The C14 reports heavily lean into that political gain. They accuse these individuals of burying their, formerly solid opinions.
Right.
And then, without blinking, spreading diametrically opposed views to those they held for years. The implication is that this is done for political advancement or personal benefit. It's highlighted that while they enjoy huge budgetary pension state, they're simultaneously accused of defiling and dirtying the very institutions that support. It points to a profound internal contradiction.
That's a strong claim about their loyalty.
Yeah.
And we see some very specific examples, right? One of the figures at the center of this fever is Yair Golan.
Yes.
Former deputy chief of staff, major general in the reserves. He made a statement that really, really caused a stir.
He certainly did. Golan made waves when he stated, a sane country does not fight civilians, does not kill babies as a hobby, and does not set goals of population.
Kill babies is a hobby, that phrase.
Exactly. That became a central point of contention, and it's not the first time Golan has uttered such controversial remarks.
I seem to recall he made some rather shocking historical comparisons in the past.
He did, yeah. Connecting this to the bigger picture, Golan previously described processes that occurred in Europe in general, and Germany in particular, 70, 80, 90 years ago, are also seen here among us today.
So drawing comparisons between Israeli society and Nazi Germany.
Essentially, yes. Even stating that the Jewish people are developing a race.
Wow, those are incredibly charged comparisons. How did he respond to the backlash this time, particularly to that killing babies as a hobby comment?
Well, Golan quickly clarified. He said his criticism was solely directed at the most failed government in Israel's history, and not at the IDF.
Trying to separate the government from the military.
Right. He stated, quite emotionally apparently, my criticism was directed against the government and not the IDF. The IDF is my home, it's my heart. So an attempt to draw that line very...
It's not just Golan. We've also seen former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert weigh in. And our sources pointedly refer to him as a former prisoner. He did serve time for corruption when citing his remarks.
That framing is definitely there.
He told the BBC that what Israel is doing in Gaza is very close to war crime.
And he didn't stop there. In another segment highlighted by these reports, it was like a game, whose line is...
Right.
And Olmert was attributed with saying, Gaza belongs to Palestinians, not to Israelis.
Wow. From a former prime minister. That carries immense weight, doesn't it? Especially internationally.
Absolutely. It really raises that question about how the words of former leaders, even those out of power, can be interpreted or maybe weaponized globally.
So this isn't just an isolated incident. It seems like maybe a broader trend. What does this collective criticism from such highly placed former officials tell us about the political climate? Potential rifts within the establishment?
It definitely highlights a deep fracturing. The reports also mention other high-ranking military and political figures accused of similar criticism.
Like who?
Well, for instance, Boogie Yalan is quoted saying, Israel performs ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Amiram Levin, with IDF, is involved in processes resembling Nazi Germany.
Again, with a Nazi comparison.
Yes. Ehud Barak, another former PM, saying absolute victory is a translation from German, Hitler's slogan. And Dan Holitz, claiming Netanyahu is an enemy who needs to be captive.
Taken captive, good.
These aren't just one-off remarks, They indicate a significant vein of dissent from within former leadership, often using incredibly strong, almost provocative language.
These are not just casual comments. They're from people who held immense power. And as you can imagine, the reactions in Israel have been fierce, coming from every corner.
Absolutely.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, for instance, he condemned Golan's remarks as wild incitement and despicable anti-Semitic blood libels against IDF soldiers and the state of Israel. He said there's no limit to moral decay.
The condemnation from the top was indeed immediate and strong. President Herzog, for his part, he called for public figures to stop these ugly mudslinging battles.
Trying to calm things down.
Sort of. Urging them to understand the magnitude of responsibility and strain their statements. But, and this is important, he also made it clear, calling severe and false libel on IDF soldiers a red line.
Even while calling for calm, he drew a line specifically about criticizing.
Exactly. Indicating just how serious these accusations against the military are.
And even opposition leaders joined in the chorus, right? Yair Lapid called Golan's remark wrong and a gift to our enemies.
Yeah, and Benny Gantz urged Golan to retract and apologize. He emphasized that his words not only outrage, but also endanger the freedom of our heroic soldiers before international law.
That's a key point, the international legal implication.
Definitely. This broad condemnation across the political spectrum, it just underscores how sensitive these statements are, especially during wartime.
And the reports show that many government ministers, Knesset members, they went even further.
Oh, absolutely. Some called Golan's actions treasonous. Minister Amihai Eliyahu wrote that Yair Golan's blood libels resonate among Israel's enemies. The price is being paid now in the murderous attack in Washington.
Linking it directly to violence abroad.
Yes. MK Tali Gottlieb called Golan a dangerous inciter, an assistant to the enemy in wartime. Says, we kill babies for pleasure as a hobby. This is treason.
Incredibly strong.
And MK Amit Halevi said Golan disgraces not only his ranks, but also his Israeli identity. So really personal attacks, too.
The public outcry, we understand, has been equally passionate, translating into very real pain and anger.
Very much so. Itzik Pass, for example, 10-month-old baby was murdered by a terrorist. The reports say he shuddered at Golan's processes and hobby.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
He openly invited him for a short history lesson on the truth behind killing babies as a hobby. Just a powerful, heartbreaking.
And there were other public reactions.
What?
Protests.
Yes, the reports detail others, too. Golan apparently faced traitor chants and protests in Stade Row. Residents were deeply offended, not just by the comments, but also his accusation that they sat in bomb shelters while he fought.
That add layer.
And there were even protests against both Golan and Olmert being invited to speak at cultural events in the upscale town of Savion.
Okay.
Residents organized via a WhatsApp group, basically saying, those who defame our soldiers, defame our land, they argue, have no place.
So the backlash, both politically and personally, is truly immense. It really underscores how deeply these words cut at the national psyche, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The emotional intensity here, you really can't overstate it. The reports even detailed how a school principal, Smadar Morse,
Yes.
she reported receiving hate mail, threats, needing increased security at her school after criticizing protests and she linked these protests to an agenda to topple a democratically elected government. And she pointed out how they apparently co-opted the teacher strike by rebranding war tax as occupation tax. It just shows how deeply intertwined these political and social issues are, impact on a very, very...
This intensity has led to calls for concrete action, not just words.
Exactly. Ophir Katz, chairman of the coalition, for example, sent a letter to the chief of staff demanding that Golan's military rank drip, said he should be demoted to private.
Demoted to private. That's a significant symbolic act.
It is. And the demands for action doesn't stop there. There's been an intensification of calls for the Attorney General to open a criminal investigation against Golan for treasonous propaganda.
Treasonous propaganda. What laws?
Laws against spreading information intended to demoralize the army or public during war. This raises a really important question, I think, about the legal boundaries, especially for former high-ranking officials during a conflict.
Right. What's allowed and what crosses a line when national security is supposedly at stake.
It's a tough.
And it goes even further, doesn't it? We're hearing about discussions within the Knesset about potentially preventing Golan from serving as a public representative.
That's right. Discussions arose about legal avenues, maybe new legislation, maybe a complaint to the Central Elections.
So actively trying to limit his public platform.
These are significant moves, yeah. It shows the seriousness with which these statements are being taken, at least by some fact.
With all these statements and reactions swirling around, the obvious question is, what's truly motivating these figures, and what are the wider implications of their words? Many of the criticisms against figures like Golan and Olmert center on allegations of a political agenda.
That's a key takeaway from these reports, definitely. It's often suggested that their statements aren't, genuine critiques, but part of a politically motivated campaign to overthrow the government. These reports explicitly state that Golan's remarks were seen by some as an attempt to leverage for political. This perspective views these comments not just as expressions of opinion, but as calculated political maneuver.
So the accusation is that they're not just speaking their minds, but actively working to undermine the current leadership for political gain.
Exactly. And the Attorney General also gets pulled into this in some of these reports.
How so?
She's accused by some of acting politically, maybe trying to incapacitate Prime Minister Netanyahu, or of giving political cover to figures like Golan, failing to prosecute.
Selective prosecution claims.
Right, thereby allowing what they call chaos to operate. It's a serious accusation against a key legal figure, suggesting a selective application of justice.
And these reports also delve into funding, don't they? Raising concerns about left-wing organizations like Zulat, headed by former Meretz chair Zahava Golan.
Indeed. Zulat is accused of running these million-shekel campaigns against judicial reform and, again, to topple the right-wing government.
And where do they say the money's coming from?
Well, the reports claim these funds are allegedly sourced from educational nonprofit, Kabatzalet and Galileo.
Okay.
And also European foundations like the Olaf Palm Fund. This raises questions about proper management and the use of public funds potentially for political projects, especially since some of these funding bodies either get Israeli tax benefits or are even calling for an arms embargo on Israel.
That adds another layer of complexity, the international funding angle.
It does.
So the impact isn't just internal, it's global. It's fueling a larger narrative. Yosef Haddad, a public diplomacy activist, he called the statements by Olmert, Barak, Golan, a mega-explanatory attack.
A mega-explanatory attack. That's quite a phrase.
He argues they literally allow the spilling of Israeli blood, particularly that of Jewish children in the diaspora.
There is a critical point the reports emphasize. Haddad stresses that when these figures speak globally, they aren't seen as simply criticizing the Israeli government.
Right. They're seen as representing Israel itself.
Exactly. Or at least representing IDF soldiers and the people of Israel as a whole. And this is where the profound strategic implications come in.
Okay.
These statements are highlighted as providing ammunition to Hamas, to various anti-Israel entities, international bodies.
Fueling the fire, essentially.
Right. Contributing to Israel's reported unprecedented political isolation, making it vulnerable to accusations of war crime, genocide, starvation, potentially leading to sanctions. And MK even referred to Golan's image being glorified as a hero by terrorist organizations.
Wow, that's a heavy charge. This all really highlights the challenge of internal cohesion versus division, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
This intense debate truly shows how tough it is to keep a nation united during wartime. While everyone seemed to pull together right after October 7th, these controversies are exposing some deep cracks.
They certainly are. A recurring theme in these reports is this idea that the most dangerous enemy sits within us and destroys us.
A fifth column kind of idea.
Sort of. And public figures accusing each other of spreading blood libels. Now, a blood libel, just to clarify for listeners.
Yes, please.
It's a chilling term referring to historical false accusations, often of ritual murder, made against Jewish people for centuries.
Right.
So using this term internally between Israelis, it underscores the extreme severity, the deep hurt behind these acts. Yet, despite all this rhetoric, one report argues that the Israeli public, broadly speaking, has not cooled down, meaning they still demand the destruction of Hamas and see those who question this as undermining the national will.
This raises such an important question, doesn't it? How does a society reconcile such strong internal disagreements with the collective will to face an external enemy?
A delicate balance.
Incredibly delicate. And these discussions show just how profoundly Israel is grappling with it right now. The pressure from within, coming from its own former leaders, adds this unique and difficult layer to an already complex situation. Well, we've certainly navigated a complex and emotionally charged landscape today, exploring these controversial statements by former senior Israeli officials.
And the powerful reactions they've triggered right across the political spectrum and within.
Yeah, we've seen how these words, whether you think they're genuine criticism or political maneuvering, how deeply they resonate within Israel.
And how they echo globally, impacting Israel's image and its strategic challenge.
This deep dive, it really reveals the precarious balance of democratic nationstrike between freedom of speech and the imperative of national cohesion, especially when facing what many perceive as existential threats.
It's a tightrope walk for sure.
So as you reflect on all this, maybe consider, what are the true costs, both internal and external, when a nation's fiercest critics come from within its own former leadership?
And how does a society effectively navigate that delicate line between free expression and national security during wartime?
Something to think about.